It all started with cards and memorization. From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to one of the greatest minds the world has ever seen. Introducing Jim Karol, author, speaker, and mentalist turned memory expert. Jim has been featured on The Today Show, The Ellen Show, Howard Stern, and hundreds of other publications. He has been studied by Florida Hospital for his brain and memory and is a frequent speaker at MIT. Jim has also performed at several USO tours, working closely with our military and wounded warriors.
Working with Jim Karol and spending time with him gives me hope in general.
I call Jim the holy grail of the neuroscience world.
He's now taking his knowledge and skills to the podcast world, interviewing some of the most impressive minds and allowing them to tell their stories about how they beat the odds. Beating the Odds is brought to you by Signal Relief, the drug-free pain relief patch. Please visit signalrelief.com and use promo code MEMORY for an exclusive offer only for our Beating the Odds listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Beating the Odds today with Dr. and Colonel Chad Kahl. Chad is currently the senior clinical consultant at the Joint Staff and provides medical consultations for the Secretary of Defense. He's been practicing medicine for over 10 years with a focus on chronic pain relief for military servicemen and women. Please enjoy this episode of Beating the Odds with Dr. Chad Kahl.
All right, my guest today is probably the coolest guy I ever met in my life. And not only is he a doctor, but he's a colonel in the Air Force. And we met. Where was that, Chad? What the heck country were we in when we originally met on that tour with Chad Kahl, everybody? Colonel, Doctor, what do I call you? Colonel, Doctor, both? How do we do this? This guy is the cool. Hey,
Jim, you just call me Chad. I think would be a good start.
But
we were
Chad,
flying over. There we were flying over Persia together.
That's amazing. You are the most awesome guy. I mean, if cool in the dictionary, COOL, your picture should be there because you are. I'm not just saying that. You're the coolest person I've ever met. We had so much fun on that tour. It was the Sherman holiday tour, right? And we were in Germany. My God, where else did we go? Saudi, not Saudi. What was Qatar? Go ahead, Chad. Introduce yourself, Chad Kahl.
Yeah, well, we got lost in Iraq. I mean, that's something that's hard to forget. If you remember that year you came, though, you know, your presence obviously is incredible there with us when we traveled with the German to Afghanistan and Iraq. But it snowed that year, and you and I were in a Humvee because they couldn't take the helicopters in because of weather. Yeah, we got stuck in that Humvee with Scarlett Johansson and you and I and Chris Evans and Ray Allen and Craig Campbell.
Right.
And it snowed like crazy in Iraq. Snow in the Middle East in the the old school Mesopotamia. And that was but I remember we got lost under the bridge, and it's not the best place to get lost, especially 4 years ago. It's still a little dangerous.
I remember from all the shooting machine guns and being in deserts, the cold weather and this and that. I remember I walked up there, I go, hey, Chad, my ear, I can't hear anything out of my left ear. You did something like out of this world to me. And then I don't know, you like pierced my ear. You did something and it went away instantly. I mean, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. What exactly did you do to me?
Yeah, that'll have to be my book will be Chad Calls Medical Magic. But there is some, we can get into probably a lot more detail on it later. But the first year you and I spent together, I had finished that small clerkship on doing auricular therapy, which is kind of neuromodulating pain in the ear with these tiny needles. ASP needles are a little different than the acupuncture needles. And I never would have imagined, a decades after practicing Western medicine and, going to University of Florida and St. Louis University, all these procedures and typical approach through Western medicine that I would be integrating Eastern medicine techniques. But to the great benefit of the military and my assignment at the Pentagon, I was blessed to get exposed to some of these things. And I think that's really where you and I bonded. We were on the seat. I remember, I think we were actually sitting behind Captain America, sitting behind Chris. And, there was a discussion about acupuncture for stress and emotion and, controlling chronic pain. And when your ear fills with fluid and you go to altitude, one of the big things we treat in aviation medicine is ear injuries, because your eardrum can burst, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it when you're flying at altitude. But those points, along with traditional antibiotic drops, seem to help cure you right up and get you back to your chipper Jim Karol self.
Well, you definitely worked your magic that day, boy. I'll tell you, that was like instantly gone. And
remember the look on your face, because you don't get it. You usually do the shocking. And it's going back to that. I remember, because we stopped in Kandahar first, and typically on the USO tours, with the great I think honor of both of us traveling around with the national treasure that is Joe Dunford and his incredible wife Ellen. You walk in, everybody's wearing flak vest and battle rattle, and you guys are ahead of me, and the chairman's kind of to my side. And I see in the back they put stickers, in the back of your helmets. It says Carroll, and then it says right next to you is Chris and Scarlett. It says Black Widow and Captain America. And it's cool because you guys are going in with all your gear on and weapon systems. But when you come into the chow hall, which we affectionately call the DFAC, which is the dining facility, and at Christmas, all the troops, and I've been there myself, away from Allie and the girls who you've come to know, being so depressed, months go on, you're over there. But when you guys roll in and I see you sitting there, I think this is that link again, going back to, what it is that's special about the brain, and being able to overcome stress and depression. I see that interaction. You guys sit down, you start doing the card tricks. I mean, so many pictures of General Dunford just laughing, and all the Marines are laughing. The day before, they're, potentially in an IED getting blown off a road, or watching their friends get blown up, which I think was one of the stories you and I heard. So that interface continues. I think why our friendship is obviously continued. And I think that piece of it that you bring, and here you are, manifesting your destiny, taking it to the next level and reaching more people.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, but it's people like you, Chad. Oh my gosh. I mean, what you're doing is just so amazing. I mean, if I could live my life over again, I'd want to be you at your age. Are you kidding me? What you're doing is just, I can't even describe, words can't describe it. It's just, I mean, you're not only serving our country amazingly, and you attained the rank of, you're a colonel now, correct? You're a full-blown colonel. And then plus you're a doctor for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, how cool is that? And you get to travel wherever he goes. And it's just an amazing thing you do and what you have done is, I can't, like I said, I'm dumbfounded. I can't even talk about it. It's just amazing what you're doing. And we became such good friends. We went to several USO events together. Every time I come down to Washington, D.C., I get together with you and your lovely family, an amazing, lovely family he has, your wife and your kids. It's just amazing. I've been at your home. I mean, you're just so awesome. It's just, and I'm genuine about it. I really mean this. You're like, I can't believe I have you on the podcast here. This is like so cool. When I originally come up with the idea of a podcast, I'm not kidding, Chad. You were the first person that came to my mind of a person I'd love to have on and just talk about your experiences of what you have been doing. My gosh. And look at you. You look like you're 19. You're like Doogie Howser. I mean, you look so young too. It's amazing.
Well, first, I'm so humbled, Jim, by everything. You're so sweet. I'm so nervous because I told Allie last night, I'm like, God, Jim's podcast looks amazing. I got to do my Wim Hof breathing to prepare. But first of all, being a colonel at the Pentagon is like, being the tallest hamster. I mean, I just was there the other day. I think every general in the building was in our clinic. So anyway, it's obviously an honor and incredible privilege to take care of those men and women at that building. And I definitely need to get an ET doll and a pool table in the house here, because I need to work on my background, I think.
Well, if you see what I used to have up here, everybody told me get rid of them. I had toy soldiers from Christmas yet in the back, so I stuck ET in the corner there. I'll give him a pool stick, let him play some pool.
Well, I know your connection with this cosmic interaction with extraterrestrials and the brain, and maybe we'll figure that out on the next podcast.
Well, that'll be an out of this world podcast for sure.
We could probably just wax poetic on that. Our favorite family movie still Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. And, it kind of helps us understand Einstein's theories of time dilation. And I know you and I have explored this to a great extent, but, there's just so much we don't understand about extra space and extraterrestrial life, and then also much that we don't understand about the inner space of the brain. And I think it's fascinating that you're at that interface. And I swear not a day goes by at the Pentagon. Had the conversation with Deputy Secretary of Defense Norquist, and we were talking about resilience and adaptogens and different kinds of plant alkaloids that help stimulate the brain and the mind, like just, task forces. And my goal still is like, hey, I've got Jim Karol's brain. Can we plug him into all of those things and let him talk to senior leaders and help him, on his journey to, I think, build relationships and build resilience in the force, so that take care of the people who are on the wall taking care of us. And there's some cosmic reason, divinity or whatever, that we keep meeting up like this. So, and I am humbled to be in the company. I know General Liddington was on here from the Wounded Warrior Project, and his daughter Abby is a dear friend of mine. And I think just before the tour, sometime around there, Abby was traveling with us pretty extensively. She was a senior official on the Joint Staff and one of Chairman Dunford's top teammates. And then she went on to the National War College to teach. So that family is, they're fast burners over there, the Liddingtons.
Yes, that is for General Liddington. Mike, General Liddington is so, everybody I'm meeting in our military, they're just so awesome. Our leadership, the past leadership that recently exited and the current leadership, I mean, we're in such great hands right now. I just love everyone that I've met. It's just amazing. And then the people that support her, like, as you know, Elaine Rogers and all the different Gary Sinise Foundation. It's just amazing. Ever since I got involved with the military, and Elaine Rogers was the original one that brought me aboard with this when Montel Williams took me down to the Walter Reed, and everybody I've met, it's just, wow. I am just so glad I got into this, stumbled onto this, and now I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life. And this is what I want to do. That's why this podcast, Beating the Odds, it's just perfect. It's a perfect name, and having some special people on that beat the odds or could help others beat the odds, like yourself. You are like, when I think of beating the odds and I think of you and what you do and what you're capable of helping our warriors and stuff, with the stuff you're studying right now. I learn from you when we have a conversation on the phone. I'm learning from you every time we have a conversation, Chad. It's just amazing. It's just
this forum is certainly, I think, a medium where you can express yourself. I mean, I can see it just and the energy coming off of you right now. This is, kind of very Joe Rogan-esque. I mean, this is your medium. I mean, this is your mind works so quickly, and you have so much information to deliver to people. And I think one of the difficult things is, obviously, you've written your books. You came here to the fire base that Allie helped to design at Team Red, White, and Blue, and you have dozens of visits to West Point and hundreds of USO trips and tours. But this medium, when we're talking about how does Jim Karol get his ESPN, ideas, exercise and sleep and positivity and nutrition, like those things couple so well with my perspective from Mike Irwin, who have, been a a friend and I think an ambassador and advisor to for a long time on Team Red, White, and Blue's, RWB of resiliency, wellness, and belonging overlap so incredibly. And all of these groups, Wounded Warrior, RWB, USO, if we can get that matrix to overlap and push out a little bit farther, I think our end goal is what happens when a person falls into despair and takes their own life. I mean, that is, we're talking about being a better you, being a better self. I still remember, the first 5 presidents, because you taught me that little mnemonic a long time ago, WAJMM, that was 5 years ago. And I'm like, I don't know all the presidents, but I'll never forget those 5. Yeah. But when you make a small leap like that, I think when it gets to the brain science about changing brain chemistry and cytoarchitecture of the brain, and where thoughts interface with memory, and where stress and anxiety interface with bad dreams and traumatic stress, that equation of you with those people is, what I always say Secretary Mattis would talk about in poetry when I would travel with him is, you are that sweet, oblivious antidote that can calm minds. And there's no one pill. It's not just something we're going to give to somebody one day. And, those drugs are effective and they're important, but if they're not coupled with what you're doing, then we're not going to lower that suicide rate of 22 a day, or thousands of my companions here in the Air Force taking their own life. And so, I think that is our Horatius at the bridge that you and I have been fighting together on. So,
Ben, Chad, I really appreciate that, because we had that talk. I think we sat aside of each other on the plane coming home from Germany to DC, and we really got into detail of some of these conversations. And I think that's where all of these ideas originated. You put them in my head, doing podcast. And now with the COVID going on, like right before this hit, I was going around the doing my own tours with USO and with Verizon and with Sprint and everything else. And now the COVID hit, I'm like, oh man, what do I do now? I want to go back, because a lot of these military bases I want to go back to. So I talked to my producers who you met before, Ryan, and hey, why don't we do our own virtual tour where I come on, we go to these individual bases all over, and I bring on some of the top entertainment of all my friends that I know. And so that's in the works right now. So yeah, you're right. There are things you can do, even though the times are weird right now. And it all starts with this, and people like yourself giving me the ideas and wanting to do it. My passion for doing this is because of people like you and Joe Dunford, and I can't even, there's millions of names out here that I could name. And that's what does it. I just don't know what else to do. So I'm open for ideas. I want to be able to bring this like a Bob Hope tour virtually, where I'm talking where we knock the socks off top entertainers, and you go here, you're at this fort one day, you're in Afghanistan another day. And that's kind of what I want to do. And that's why I started the podcast. Yeah.
Well, I think, this is a watershed moment where discussion, you're traveling with Kahl Jacobs and Kelly Pickler, and they're doing the same kind of work. Elaine brings on John Stewart. He has conversation after conversation with General Silva and John Wayne Troxel, the SEAC.
That's the next guy I got to get on here.
And so again, I'm a placeholder here. I certainly think that in my little office, this quiet little space in the Pentagon, where I bring these people in and, have incredible conversations. And I use so many of the things that you and I have talked about. And I think I've even referred patients of mine to you. Hey, there's something you can't work out in your mind. Your child's sick. You lost your job. You're in a divorce. You're suffering from alcohol dependency. You lost your legs in an IED, and you've got what we see all the time is neuropathic pain and phantom pain syndrome. The last time that Milo Ventimiglia, the actor from This Is Us, who went on one of the recent USO tours with Jesse May Peluso and a couple other actors and actresses, he came straight to the floor. A young kid had just recently been in an IED. He had really bad phantom pain syndrome. He had been seen several times by your good friends over at the NICO Center, the Naval Intrepid Center of Excellence, and kept thinking about the conversation with you and Jill Dunford about, okay, again, it's not, can't just give the guy or gal who lost their legs Neurontin and Celexa, pills we use to calm mind and pain. You have to have this multifocal approach with allied healthcare, adaptable music therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, memory training, cognitive science, adaptable integration with the mind. So much of it is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically like the serenity prayer to learn to have the strength, to live with the things you can't change. And that is a lot of investment. And people like yourself, and I know the Fisher Foundation got involved heavily in the NICO Center. But coming back to when Milo pops in the room, I always say, you guys, you're really like real superheroes. I mean, I literally got emotional and cried when I just saw this kid. He was so happy to see Milo. It was to have that ability, like to show up in a room, and we know biochemically why it is. It's like when you're happy, when you see someone that's famous, they come in, you get a dopamine surge in your frontal cortex. You make all these links to your memory and how you see that person on a television show or on Ellen doing card tricks. You suppress your cortisol, you laugh. Laughter suppresses cortisol, it upregulates serotonin and dopamine. It does all the same things that, these amazing drugs that we came up with, but they seem to have more lasting effect, and they're synergistic. So they piggyback on existing therapies. And, I just, as you guys were plugging in year after year the USO tours and going to you show up, you guys showing up makes so much of a difference. Because when the politicians see the power of things like the NICO and USO and their investment in you coming to those places, the American people invest in those things, and people can feel good about that. So it's amazing.
And that NICO that you're mentioning, for the people that don't, the NICO Center, especially the one down at Walter Reed and Ken Fisher and Fisher House Foundation, Ken's a dear friend of mine, and they had a lot to, but Dr. Tom DeGraba, he was at the NICO Center. He's another guy I got to get to come on here.
Yeah, I think we finally emailed, but we keep missing each other. I know that I need to have a beer with this man for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like, well, hey, getting back to the tour with General Joe Dunford, the chairman at the time, and now you brought up a name here, Sergeant Major John Troxell.
John Wayne Troxell. Let your name defining who you're going to be.
Here it is in a nutshell. Remember back in when I was a kid, G.I. Joe. Well, I'll tell you what, they should make a doll of John Wayne Troxell. Man, this guy. Hey, how does he run 5K every day? He lifts weights like a maniac. This guy's like superhuman. It's amazing.
He runs 5K, but he'll text me. He's down in Texas now. But it was funny because I sat next to him. We were kind of moving around the plane. Obviously, one of the great things about the USO tour is, people get up and hang out and talk. And, there's Sean White hanging out with Kelly Pickler and Aaron Barrett from the Washington Nationals. And then you're there doing card tricks with Ray Allen, and he's got basketball. So you're on a plane on Air Force Two, flying there. And you look up, and then people are playing guitars and singing, but John Wayne Troxell, to do his best impression, he's always like, Doc, all I need is 2 effing things. PT and chow. I mean, this is a guy, he's very well known. If you Google the word John Wayne Troxell and surrender or die,
oh, God.
He got in a lot of trouble for that on the Fox News interview. Yep. But, I think everybody understands that when ISIS was moving back very quickly across Iraq, he basically was going out and talking to the troops about be ready for the worst day of your life and prepare yourself mentally and physically. And he was kind enough to sign my entrenching tool, which is that metal tool that they unfold from their back in the Army. In the Air Force, we don't entrench. Like, we have cots and beds and bathrooms, but in the Army, they do this thing called entrenching, where they dig a fucking hole in the ground and bury themselves for protection and carry their weapons and kick ass. So anyway, this entrenching tool is this metal thing, and John Troxell was doing this interview where he was like, ISIS surrender or we're basically going to kill you with our entrenching tools. And it's a real display of American bravery and resilience. Every that enemy back.
Every tour. When the chairman, if you're on a chairman's tour with Chairman Joe Dunford, right at his side, introducing me, because I was always the host, and I would introduce Scarlett and everybody else. And so I would be introduced. I have the honor of being introduced by the chairman, Joe Dunford, and John Troxell would be right at his side. All right. I was so intimidated the first time. Like, I would always pick on Mr. Dunford to do the trick with. I would never want to. This guy is so intimidating. He's the toughest person, man. I swear, this guy he could have been a UFC fighter. He would have been a champion. This guy's like tough. He did. Like you define the word cool. If you look up tough in the dictionary, it should have a picture of John Wayne Troxell. It's just amazing. It's just.
I don't know. For 2 things. One, Ren and Evie, the girls, would take great umbrage with thinking that I'm cool. I'm definitely hearing you say that I'm cool is. You're like Johnny friggin' Cash with the glasses and the black and the goatee. So, 2, John Wayne Troxell's wife, Sandra, definitely knows that he's just a big softie. And he's terrified if, he's not getting his honey-do list in order. So, you be sure and bring that up.
Is it like that?
We had all of our creativity and hard work, you yourself, the last page of your book, Memory Magic, I just love seeing one of the most important things in that whole book about the first time you saw Lynn in her eyes and how you fell in love in a place in New York that I can't pronounce, Kaskaquaga.
No, that actually was in Pennsylvania, Catasauqua. Yeah, Catasauqua, Pennsylvania.
Beautiful Indian name,
Catasauqua, and it's right next to Tamaqua and Hakkendakwa. It's like what an area I live in.
Aquataqua. I might need to have another IPA here, a Belgian ale to say it correctly. But I think that, obviously John and Sandra, decades married, Jim, Joe and Ellen Dunford, she's the power behind his mind, and yourself with Lynn and Allie, obviously, same thing. I was so happy a decade and a half ago to come across her path. And, I think that's what's kept us both going. And I think they're all about our pursuit here of trying to help people mend their minds.
Hey, I'm 6'2", Lynn's 4'11", and she kicks my butt. She's the boss.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you know that. That's how it is. So John Wayne Troxell is like that too. I did not know.
You got to see. No, he's a puppy dog.
We're gonna get him on. We got to get him on.
He's fast as hell. Yeah, and he can lift some weights and do his PT with the best of them. But I do remember, we would stop at Paycom in Hawaii a lot, and I was training with General Dunford, and it was right before he was kind enough to let me publish a paper on military.com's editorial about Blue Zone diets. And you and I have talked about this before about Dan Buettner's work at Yale on Blue Zones and longevity. But it was kind of an interface with Blue Zone, longevity, and then the Galloway Method, which is this runner, famous marathon athlete that General Dunford followed religiously. this interesting paradigm of building resilience and running, but basically will allow you to run, and then you set these Galloway timers where you walk in between. So you can get all the benefits and the mental clarity that comes along with running, but instead of running like a 5K, you run for 3 minutes and walk for 1. So you basically run you walk before you're injured. But there was just this really great overlap again with Buettner's work on the blue zones, and I was trying to convince John Wayne Troxell about slow down a little bit. Like, he was already coming back out at Hickam Air Force Base. He'd already ran 7 miles. And as he's coming back from his PT, we're all out walking, and he just kind of shames us on the way in. Oh, about time you woke up, you pansies.
Oh man.
Except he might throw an F-bomb in there,
He's like a super. He's definitely a superhuman character, man. He should be in a movie or something. He should.
Yeah, well, he's doing all kinds of, he's doing public speaking for Oakley, and yeah, he's doing just fine. And I think another person here, I know he's not quite finished with his career yet, but there's a general here at the Pentagon. His name's Dan, call sign Raisin, last name Kane. Dan Kane.
Oh, wow.
You met him, right?
Yeah.
Dan Raisin Kane.
Yeah.
Special Forces, flying F-16 Vipers wasn't badass enough, and he had to go back and be a Special Forces operator.
It's amazing.
That's where he overlaps with the new SEAC, who is Colon Lopez. I think you've met him, right?
I met a lot of these. I know a lot of these guys briefly.
Yeah. So he took John Wayne Troxell. You will meet him soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So they're TAC-Ps, which not many people are familiar with. This is another thing that we could do a whole episode on, and I hope the TAC-P brothers and sisters are listening out there. But basically, they're Air Force special operators, and they're kind of the Navy SEALs of the Air Force. And they're some of the most heavily decorated personnel in the post 9/11. And if you go take a walk in across the street from my house over here at Arlington Cemetery, you'll see a lot of TAC-Ps buried out there at Arlington. In fact, because they couldn't do Memorial Day celebrations, Chairman Milley and the SEAC did a interview on ABC News with Nora O'Donnell. She did the Monday Night News, and they walked through Arlington. The SEAC, the new SEAC who replaced John Wayne Troxell, who's Ray Colon Lopez, Chief Lopez.
Yeah, I met him. I met him at the Elite.
Oh, that's right. You were at the 12 Strong event at the house.
Yes.
Quarter 6.
Right before all of this stuff happened, like early March.
This is him. So we're
He's
walking.
cool. He's a cool guy. Yeah, I like him.
He's with his sweet, incredible wife, and they're walking. Nora O'Donnell's in the front. And you can, Google the Monday Night News, Nora O'Donnell with Chairman Milley, and basically they're talking about, it's unusual now because the chairman and the SEAC are both special forces. Sometimes it's a pilot, sometimes it's space operator, sometimes it's infantry. General Dunford was Marine infantry.
Right.
But Chairman Milley and the SEAC now are both special forces, which is really incredible.
Wow.
So I'm just walking along, the SEAC just drops to one knee right in front of a white marble tombstone at Arlington, and he puts his head down. They wear the red beret, which is basically Air Force Special Forces. And he says, "This is one of mine. This is one of mine." And he just put his hand on it, and he put his head down. And meanwhile, further along, Chairman Milley's walking with Nora O'Donnell. They're trying to capture this, and there was a family, a Gold Star family, who means basically the wife, the spouse of the member who died, and her 2 young boys are walking through the gravestones, and this little boy finds his dad's grave, and Chairman Milley has his green beret with all 4 stars on it. And this little boy he just comes up and basically hugs the chairman's leg, and he hands him his green beret with the 4 stars right by his dad's grave.
Oh boy.
And the wife was just so strong, and I just think about Allie and the girls.
This is what I love about you, buddy, so much. I mean, all of you guys, huge. I'm like stunned right now with we talk about one moment we're talking about toughness, rough and tough and everything else, but then the other side, all you guys are like this too. It's such an honor to have met all of you guys, let alone become friends. All right, with people like yourself and Sergeant Major John Troxell and Joe Dunford and Milley, General Milley, the current chairman. Another tough, rough guy, but yet a heart of gold like this. And it's amazing. This is just an amazing group of people, the military family. I am so honored to be involved with this now. And I can't even describe it. It's just amazing. I mean, like I told, I have a couple people on my last podcast. My dad was in the Navy, Chad, back in World War II. He served and stuff like that. And I never really knew what it was all about. I'm a little kid. I'd come home and he'd be crying and everything else, teary-eyed, and I didn't know what that was. But now I know. I learned a lot in the last 10 years. Thank God for Elaine Rogers. She introduced me to this whole world, to people like yourself and the chairman and the current chairman and all. Oh man, this is just so amazing. And now I just want to give back to everybody, not only mentally, but physically. And that's why, like before, we sent you, all my guests, we send out these things from the sponsor, like the Signal relief thing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just gave it to my first patient yesterday, and I will get an update from them today. But, chronic pain, emotional and physical, is my day-to-day life. So I'm looking forward to see how this nanotechnology with microcapacitors. Well, we started off the conversation today with how I treated your pain with neuromodulation. Humbly, I don't know exactly how it works. I've seen the positron emission tomography and the functional MRI of what goes on in the brain and the sensory cortex. A lot of people in the Western world say, okay, all I want is double-blind, placebo-controlled trials with Neurontin and Celexa. And you know what? We had double-blind, placebo-controlled trials with OxyContin, and 200 people a day overdose on opioids.
Jeez.
So while those 200 people are dying, there were medical physicians trained in Western medicine sitting on editorial boards approving the use of heroin-derived molecular medication. It's similar in molecular structure to heroin, with the same addictive capacity on the mind and the brain, knowing full well of its ability to shut down the brainstem's capacitor for the respiratory drive, which is why people die when they take opioids. Because basically, if you take OxyContin or oxycodone or codeine or any of these things that we gave tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of troops for pain, for knee and chronic back pain, they're going to get addicted to it. And you and I both know some people genetically can get addicted in one dose. And so again, that fascinating little capacitor just behind you, it's very difficult. And this is something that I think my much smarter Harvard and Yale trained colleagues in my humble medical school, University of Florida, they, especially here in DC and Georgetown, some of the most brilliant neuroscientists and orthopedic surgeons, they don't even want to hear about microcapacitors or nanotech, because you can't do double-blind placebo-controlled trials where I can give you a blue patch and a red patch. Pain and depression are notoriously very difficult to study this way. And so sometimes we need observational data, and that makes the placebo effect very difficult to ferret out. But if someone's in chronic pain in their neck or their back or their knee hurts, and we have these studies that they did, blue pill, red pill, and the red pill was OxyContin, and a large percentage of those people overdose and die, then my Hippocratic Oath, which starts with primum non nocere, which is the Latin for first do no harm, how can I do no harm if I'm giving you a drug that you might overdose and kill yourself? And I'm not talking about chronic pain, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, cancer, surgery. Fine, use morphine, use Dilaudid. I use it in the ER for kidney stones. I give it all the time. But for knee and back and shoulder, when people get blown out of their Humvee and they break their arm, or they have chronic neuropathic pain from losing their leg, we have to study this technology, and the drug companies are not designed for these types of applications to be studied. You're not going to hurt anybody with this device.
No, that's why. Yeah. And you know what? It's just like, it just works. That's the only reason why I like when they said, "Hey, we'd love to sponsor your podcast." I'm like, me, I'm a little skeptical with anything,
People should be. Yeah. They should be skeptical. Yeah. We should poke holes in it.
Yeah, but when they sent me them in the mail, and it works. And everybody I've given it to so far, it's just amazing. Everybody I've given it so far, it's working, and that's why I accepted sponsorship happily. You know what I mean? I wouldn't push anything, but I just thought, you of all people being into this kind of stuff, I wanted to see how it, like we had a doctor on, Dr. Dewey Lee from Dallas the other day, and he was like raving about it and everything else. And that's why, this show is going to be a lot of doctors. I'm going to have a lot of doctors on, a lot of athletes, a lot of people that deal with neurodegenerative diseases, you know what I mean? And I want to find out the answers. I'm like, why could I do what I do at 67? I couldn't do this before 50. I want to find these answers out. And that's why to have people like you in my life, I love you so much. You're like my little baby brother.
I love you too, brother.
No, you're
closer in age.
Yeah. I'm a heck of a lot older. You're like,
you don't look any older. I know your brain age. They studied it at MIT. What is it, like 16?
No,
you're going to go through puberty again.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, look at this is like so much fun. It's like a whole new life, studying the brain. It's like, so that's why I envy you. That's why what you do.
This is great.
Look at the knowledge you have. My God, if I had your knowledge of what I'd know what the heck's going on inside here. I don't know.
We study the brain. I love it. We're at home. I got you can't do this in the hospital. I've got a Belgian AL here. Yeah, this is the way to go. You got it all figured out.
But it's good.
But I think I've got my first patient, chronic tension headaches and neck pain.
Yeah.
Just put them on the Signal device yesterday, which I'm really excited to see the outcomes.
Let me know. I'd love to hear that. Yeah, because this is like I put one on my neck one time like this, and it felt like it was warm. Like, how could it be warm? It's nothing here. But it went away. It's like, so I don't know. Hey, like, what do you see? Like, what do you see on the horizon? Chat, talking about all it is, helping the brain, helping PTSD, helping TBI, helping CTE. What do you see on the horizon in the future? Do you see anything? Like, what do you think is going to be the next stage to get away from all these pain pills? What do you see? Yeah,
there's certainly a place. I don't want to sound like a charlatan or a snake oil salesman, especially when we get devices that we want to vet them, we want to study them, we want to make observational analysis, write a lot of case reports. And if we can do double-blinded studies where one of those pads don't have anything, they're just a piece of paper, and the other one is the nanotech capacitors, and we do massive double-blinded trials, bring it on. Let's do that. We have the ability, but cutting into the existing mechanisms of large pharmaceutical companies is part of that. And it speaks perfectly, I think, to what you're talking about with supplement and the adaptogen market. And, part of that has been the excitement here in the DoD and the interface with, my work with Georgetown University, which is near the Pentagon, and especially, with my medical students and residents. out at USU, which is the military medical school at Walter Reed in Bethesda, is starting to talk to those students early about identifying and understanding pain in the paradigm of depression and pain and neurocognitive health with respect to, again, going back to your easy acronym, ESPN.
Yeah.
Exercise. Like if I could put, there's how many books are there? Scott Kearney's book, What Doesn't Kill Us. If you're listening out there, go read it. Everything in my emails that I send to my patients is in there. Scott Kearney's book is actually has a preface, a foreword by Wim Hof and the Wim Hof method. I'm sure a lot of people listening are like myself for 6 months. A lot of people at the Joint staff and some of my patients are doing the Wim Hof method. We could, again, do a whole 10 podcasts just on that alone. The sleep is a function of all of those things. Yep. I think a lot of people are starting to understand that sleep has 4 phases, phase 1, 2, 3, and then phase 4, which is the REM sleep. And then you go through about 5 cycles of about 90 minutes each. You're supposed to. I think wearables and tech wearables in the military are going to be essential to helping people with that, because the Joint staff started wearing these. I don't have any endorsements. I wish I did. This is the Fitbit Charge 3. I've got people wearing the Fitbit Charge 4. One of the big functions of it is sleep analysis. It's able to, we weren't doing this a couple of years ago. Everyone's like, hey, get some sleep. You'll feel better. You were writing about it for a decade. Yeah. But when people understand the phases of sleep, they sleep better. It's like, the ancient Greek writing over the Oracle of Delphi says, know thyself. And one of the things you can know about yourself is sleep. And most people don't know what they're doing. And people have issues like sleep apnea. But these little devices can pick some of those things up. But if you're drinking a lot of coffee at night, or you exercise too late at night, or you eat too late at night, or your room temperature is over 73 degrees, which is very difficult to get below if you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, like I spent a large portion of my life. But if you look at, and I think by the end of this, they can have the link to my RWV email, and I've got a really concise, basically like 10-point plan that overlaps very nicely with everything in your book on just how to sleep better. And
a good night. The sleep has to be a good night's sleep.
Yes.
And then what that does is that cleans out, is it called your lymphatic system? And it
acts lymphatic system.
It acts like a maid service. It cleans your brain out.
It cleans your brain.
Yep. And then if you drink coffee, it blocks adenosine, which keeps you up. And
yes.
Oh, that's what I'm studying now. This is so cool. I wish I would have studied this when I was your age, man. I mean,
well, your brain's ready for it now. You're forcing me to go back and relearn it all. So you're gonna have to calm down, Jim. I can't keep up with you.
No, you're so awesome, man. Just to know people, like the knowledge that you have is just amazing on the brain. And I see, look at you. I'm like, when you fixed my ear, I'll never forget that. I mean, people, he did not just fix my ear. He fixed it like, bam, in like 5 minutes, it was gone. I mean, what? Yeah. That was just insane. Well, I couldn't hear anything, and all of a sudden I could hear, and there's no pain. And you go, you better take these just in case, for an infection. Oh my, I couldn't believe how quick you fixed that. I've never had a doctor fix me up that quick. Never. That was just amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever get your bill from TRICARE in the mail for that, by the way?
So that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, those similar points that I was so fortunate to come across a couple of the physicians here at the Pentagon that were very lead innovators on implementing some of this auriculotherapy. And again, I do a full workup, look in the ear, look for lymph nodes, particularly for people who have ringing in their ear, which is something that I have from being deployed with B-1 bombers and Al Udeid. I can't hear a damn thing. I've got ringing in my ears at night. I have a lot of TACP, special operator types, discharge weapons. So what happens is The cochlea gets damaged when you get over 100 decibels of sound, particularly like 110, 115 decibels at a certain pitch, like a helicopter or an aircraft in operational, in field operations. So in the DoD, we've developed hearing conservation programs that we have to every year look at our hearing. Well, when you have this ringing in your ear, you know, any Western trained physician could go Google it all they want. There's no treatment. You say, oh, that's nice. You got ringing in your ear. You're going crazy. You can't sleep. Your ears are buzzing. Sorry, there's nothing we can do at all. So it led us to start investigating acupuncture for this, which again goes back to neuromodulation, which I think is similar to pain. I want to believe that potentially it's the small intestine, hey-goo, meeting of the gate meridian that's changing your chi, like the old Shogun blind acupuncturist, Wai-Chi Tsukiyami. Like I want to believe that, and maybe in the end I'll find out that it is. But what we are learning is that if you look at the functional MRI, if I manipulate these points that they use in Chinese medicine, that the cochlear hair cells that get broken when you get exposed to that kind of sound wave, they act a lot like phantom pain because they're sending this signal to the auditory cortex in your brain, and your brain's telling you, okay, I've got this 4,000 hertz buzz in my ear. And so if you can find the sensory afferents that overlap that area of the brain, you can modulate the sound. And you know, in the research that we're conducting here in DC, some people are getting better. It's just really hard to conduct, again, these double-blind placebo-controlled trials. We do it with sham acupuncture, but it doesn't cost a lot of money, and people want to do it, and they admit very quickly that they're better. So, you know, Dr. Neemsau has been instrumental for decades here, and he was the president's physician under Bush and Obama, and has been the chairman's doc off and on for decades too. So we're very lucky to have those guys around teaching us.
Hey, you know, with the ESPN, we know the E is exercise, your brain and body, S, proper sleep. P is my most important one, positive. And I want to wrap this thing up here with something really, really positive for everyone.
We didn't even get to nutrition, though. I thought the N was, I love the...
Hey, look at me, man. I'm like the furthest thing from the guy to talk about nutrition.
All right, well, we're going to talk about nutrition next. I'm going to have you intermittent. We'll talk on the phone later tonight, but I want you... keto, plant-based keto, intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Watching the Game Changers documentary, but
yeah, I'm the last person to give advice on nutrition. My gosh, I'll give advice on how to improve your memory, but nutrition. But anything
it is linked to your brain.
What is the absolute most hilarious, funny thing that ever happened on a tour? Do you think of something that was really funny? What's something really funny to end this on a positive note? What the funniest moment that you've ever had with any of the chairmans on a tour? What something, and it could be embarrassing, funny. I mean, I could tell you 10 of them right now that I could think of just from the tours I did. I want to see what yours is.
Well, it had to be pretty brilliant that night when we were in, if you remember the last night when we were in Nuremberg.
Oh my gosh. No, don't say too much about that one though. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Anyway,
yeah,
that was the funniest one ever. I think there were a couple of Germans involved, and Scarlett Johansson, and people were drinking. I can't disclose whether I was or not, and there was a lot of singing of Eagles. But yeah, there was some pretty remarkable display of comedy going on with you and those two young Germans who wandered upon us in Nuremberg.
Right,
I remember the last trip, and please, you have to have Jessie May Peluso. Your podcast with her would set this place on fire. She just did, whose show was it? I think she did Joe Rogan, and then she did one of the other comedians. But anyway, she's a brilliant comedian. And
she's very, very funny. I know. I've never met her. I would be honored. Once again, I would love that.
She's a sweetheart, and she's up in New York, and so she's.
You got to do it.
she would love to do this. And she does a lot of kind of like Seth Rogen, the actor. She does a lot of, raises a lot of money for Alzheimer's.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I hate to keep going off on tangents, but the neurofibrillary tangles
of tau
occur in the tau that occur in the brain that cause the neurodegenerative changes. Another thing, when you were talking about sleep and deep phase 3 sleep and REM sleep and how it cleans those neurofibrillary tangles. Yeah. Anyway, I want people to look into that and different mechanisms and modalities. But I remember this last tour with Joe Dunford. We were in a tent and we were at Camp Bastion, which is a FOB, as you well know, a forward operating base. We're taking incomings and RPG fired missiles. Every once in a while, a missile will go off and everyone will be told to get in their bomb shelter. So she's out there in the tent and it's late at night, and she had basically kind of set up, there's a million YouTube videos of this, but she finds the biggest guy on the tour and she wants to recreate the time of your life from what is the Dirty Dancing.
Oh.
Where she runs in the water and she jumps in Patrick Swayze's arms and he holds her out. Anyway, they play the music. The DJ spins the music, which is DJ J Days, who I think you know. He comes with us on all the tours now. He's an amazing DJ from West Coast. Shout out to DJ J Days, who I love. So he plays Time of Your Life. Jessie May jumps into the crowd, this giant guy. And she drops like 20 F-bombs right in front of Joe Dunford, who's this incredible Jesuit, went to Catholic school his whole life and is very reserved, stoic, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And then after the event, she's standing outside. She's so sweet and cute. And she tells Joe Dunford, she's like, I've been really behaving myself on this tour. Just want you to know. And Joe Dunford does this thing with his hands, and he always takes his glasses down, gives you a look. And, you've seen it, right? Glasses, he's like, this is you on your best behavior. So I think he was terrified thinking of Jessie May on her worst behavior. So,
hey, Chad Kahl, everybody. Everybody's doctor. If you need a doctor, he's the one you want to call. This is the best doctor.
Call me,
I wish you were my doctor, man. If I wish you were closer. Yeah.
Chad.kahl@teamrwb.org. I will answer your questions and send you some links on sleep and adaptogens and things you should ask your doctor about vitamin D for preventing coronavirus. It doesn't prevent it, can't prove it, but I want people to look into vitamin D deficiency. I think it can help with your immunity and some other things that I think could really be important that you discuss with your physician. So.
All right, buddy. Hey, thank you so. I really love you, brother. The
Jim,
best, coolest doctor in the world, right there, Chad Kahl. Everybody, thank you so much, Chad.
Love you, Jim.
Thank you, buddy. Awesome.
See you, brother.
Hey, everybody. This is it. Signal relief. I know what you're thinking. What the heck is it? It looks like alien technology of some kind. But let me tell you something. This really works. I mean, I worked at a steel mill. I lifted weights when I was younger, and I hurt my back so bad. And chronic back pain for the last 20 years. And my buddy Mike sent me one of these in the mail, stuck it on my back while watching TV for an hour, and all of a sudden the pain's gone. This is the real deal. Rave reviews, Signal Relief. You can find it on the podcast site, jimkarol.com/podcast, or I think it's signalrelief.com is connected with that as well. One of the best things I ever seen in my life. Signal Relief.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Beating the Odds today with Dr. and Colonel Chad Kahl. Please visit jimkarol.com/podcast to view, watch, and listen to the podcast on all your favorite platforms. Also, make sure to visit signalrelief.com and use promo code MEMORY for an exclusive offer only for our Beating the Odds listeners. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Beating the Odds, and we'll see you on the next one.